Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder of Streamlined Properties and the team leader of Streamlined Properties on Market, brokered by eXp Realty. Whether you are looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back to another week of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. As always, I really appreciate you listening. We have a great guest this week, and before we get there, I usually give you my general rundown of podcast begging for subscribe, like, share, 5-star review, whatever. I actually want to point out that on my YouTube channel, which is Jonathan Green RE, we have 10-minute clips of all these episodes. So you can see the 10-minute clips, then hopefully you come over, listen to the whole podcast, and wherever you listen to podcasts, after you're done, make sure you subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Our guest this week is Craig Curelop. He wrote the book on the house hacking strategy for Bigger Pockets. He runs a team on market out in Denver called the FI team. You're going to learn a ton. Let's go. This is episode 52 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Craig Curelop. Craig is the founder of the FI team and the author of the house hacking strategy book for Bigger Pockets. He's also all over Bigger Pockets. Craig, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, thanks so much for having me. Is this a weekly Is this a weekly show?
It is a weekly show.
Does that make me the 1-year anniversary at 52 weeks?
You are, exactly.
Look at that. I'm honored.
Yeah,
I'm
but
honored.
See, because you know that 52 for a weekly is more important than 50, so.
That's exactly right. I'll take that anniversary day.
Yeah, you are the 1-year anniversary, so congratulations. But no, it's great to have you. Great to meet you. So, how did you get your start in real estate? When you were younger, was it something you were interested in, or was it something that you just transitioned to over time?
No, definitely was not on my radar when I was younger. When I first got into kind of the corporate world after college, I realized I didn't like the corporate world. I didn't want to sit behind an Excel spreadsheet for the rest of my life. And I really wanted to figure out passive income. And so at the time I was living in Silicon Valley, and startups were obviously the kind of what make up Silicon Valley. So I was trying to think of little startup ideas that I could do to have some sort of passive income, or at least some sort of income without having to work like a real job. And I just came up with dumb idea after dumb idea until I found real estate, which I found by my landlord at the time. I was living in about a 20-unit apartment complex in San Jose, California. And this little old Latina lady comes up and just collects a $2,000 check from me and probably 20 plus other people from the units that were living in that complex. And I was just like, dang, this woman just made $40,000 by driving over here once a month. And so that was when I was like, oh my gosh, real estate. And so then I started diving down the path and started doing all this research, found Bigger Pockets. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey.
Yeah, and I think this is important because we've both been around Bigger Pockets for a long time. When you first found Bigger Pockets, how did you figure out like what was real, who was real, and how to navigate the structure so that you could help yourself? Because it's so big, there's so much information. How did you get through it in the beginning?
Funny enough, I thought Bigger Pockets was a scam when I first started because I thought everything was a scam that wasn't just a regular 9-to-5. And then I picked up this book called The Book on Rental Property Investing by Brandon Turner. And he was mentioning Bigger Pockets all throughout that book. So I figured if Bigger Pockets was mentioned in the book, it had to be true. I didn't realize Bigger Pockets actually published that book. And so that's what actually got me to start listening to the podcast and like actually giving it a chance. And I really started with the podcast. And I just took patterns from each episode. And everyone seemed to have started with house hacking. The hosts, Brandon and Josh at the time, kept telling people, hey, like you should start with house hacking. And I was like, okay, well, I'm starting. I might as well just do what everybody else did and start with house hack. And that was it.
Did you start it
Yeah.
with house hack? Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved. So I got out of that job. I knew I wanted to be around people that were in real estate. And so I basically started at a clean slate. I moved from San Francisco to Denver, and I knew nobody in Denver. And so I was just clean slate. I was like, all of my friends I'm going to make going forward are going to be real estate or business related. I want to surround myself with these people. And so if you find yourself in a rut around people that, aren't bringing you up, I think the best thing to do is just move, right?
Yeah.
Move to a place that you can house hack, move to a place where you can just start clean. So I stopped drinking. I stopped going out to eat. I stopped doing all those things that are bad for me. And all I did was like buckle down, save, work. And then I started investing in real estate. Within a month of moving to Denver, I had purchased my first property.
That's awesome. And I think that part of moving is also just, yeah, like you said, clean slate, and you don't know anyone, so you can't really do anything in the beginning. So good time to get caught up on books and podcasts. What was the makeup of the first property that you bought?
Yeah, so the first property I bought was a duplex because at the time, house hacking, really, there wasn't really rent by the room wasn't very popular. Airbnb wasn't that, like it was like buy a duplex, triplex, or quad and rent out the other units. That was how house hacking started. And so I found this duplex. It was a top bottom duplex, 1 bed, 1 bath each unit. And it was a mile and a half from the office from Bigger Pocket. So I could ride my bike or even walk to work. And I just thought the location was good. It was a little sketchy at the time, but it was obvious as to which way Denver was headed in terms of development. And you just couldn't beat that location. And so I went ahead and I purchased that property. It was $385,000. It was a top bottom duplex. I lived in the bottom unit and rented out the top. And the top wasn't quite covering my mortgage. And I was like pretty determined to live for free. So that's when I Airbnb'd out my bedroom and slept in the living room, like behind this curtain and cardboard box room divider thing. And it was able to cash flow that way.
That's old school. That was really like the original thing that really, when Tim Ferriss wrote 4-Hour Workweek, that he was talking about with the couch surfing principle. So by doing that, then you were able to go into positive cash flow on it.
Yeah. So I was basically, my mortgage payment was $2,200 a month. I was getting $1,750 for the upstairs, and my basement bedroom was making about $1,100 a month. So I was making $2,850 on a $2,200 mortgage. So I was living for free, even cash flowing a little bit. And that was kind of the start of the first property.
Yeah. Once you figured out how to make it positive, did that immediately start you thinking, I can keep doing this? Because I know that's why you got into it, but did you start to see the vision for how far it could go?
I kind of knew the whole time. I wouldn't say, like, I knew I was trying to get to positive and I knew I would get there. Yeah. So I wouldn't say like, oh, this could be positive. It was just kind of like, I know this can be positive. I just need to like make some sacrifices. At the time I was young. I was 24 and single. And I was like, I'm going to take advantage of my advantage right now is time. And it's like, I can live in a shoebox and don't care.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have a spouse. I don't like no one. All I'm doing is affecting myself. And so that's fine. And so I just took those cards that were dealt to me and I used them to my advantage.
Yeah. And since you wrote the book on the house hacking strategy, let me run this by you. We both run on-market teams, you and I, so we work with a lot of investors as well. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give is something that you just said. You said you could live in the smallest amount, space possible. For someone who's single or a couple who are both on the same page to house hacking, I want to look for them for uneven multis, less bedrooms, more bedrooms, if you can get a 3/1 instead of a 2/2, because you're losing money if you don't do what you did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And now, right, like even what I did, that was like what only thing I thought of at the time. And to be frank, I got the idea, like it wasn't my idea. When I was living in San Francisco, it's obviously really expensive. I was living with this single woman who had 2 kids and she was in her 40s. And I was sleeping in like the smallest bedroom. She had another couple sleeping in the master bedroom, and she was sleeping in the living room behind the curtain with her 2 kids at 40, 45 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was one of the inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. So where did you go from there? What was the next property, and how did you know you were ready to go into another property?
So I have to say, like, it wasn't glorious living behind the curtain. Most days were fine, but towards the end, I was getting pretty sick of it. And so exactly 1 year later, I fulfilled my year obligation under the loan requirements. I bought my second house. And because I wasn't paying rent, I was saving an extra $2,000 a month, probably on top of the $1,000 or so I was saving prior to that. So now I'm saving $3,000 a month. That's about $36,000 a year. If you account bonuses and all that kind of stuff, probably closer to $40,000 to $50,000 in that year that I saved up.
Yeah.
And so that was more than enough for a down payment. So I went ahead and bought a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, a little outside of town. But now I got my own bedroom, increased my lifestyle a little bit, but I was still living with 4 other roommates.
Did you refi the original FHA into conventional and then do an FHA again, or were you not using FHA at the time?
So the second one was not FHA. It was just a 5% down conventional. So
Nice.
with single family homes, you don't need to do the FHA. You can just do a 5% down conventional.
Yeah. And then you still had the good loan on your first one that was cash flowing anyway.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah. So, I mean, for someone right now, the market's obviously different. In a lot of the markets, it's very tough to find that house hack, especially for people who want to use the FHA. What advice would you give to the new house hackers that are out there? They're filling up bigger pockets. Everybody still wants to house hack, but it's competitive now. What are some pieces of advice that you could give these new house hackers that can set them apart?
Everyone wishes that they house hacked 5 years earlier, right? Like I did, right? When I was buying in 2017, I was like, man, I really wish I bought in 2013, right? When my mentor bought. And now, and I remember being like, no, I need to buy now because I know that in 5 years, in 2022 or 2023, I'm going to really wish that I bought in 2017. And of course, this was before I didn't know anything. I didn't know COVID was going to happen. I didn't know the real estate market is going to explode. But you could just sit around and wait. But like now is usually like in most cases through history, now is usually the best time to buy real estate, right? Any point in time at that time is the best time because you can't go backwards, right? People are like, oh, I'm going to wait for interest rates to drop. It's like, well, guess what? When interest rates drop, prices are going to go up, right? People don't care about the interest rate. People only care about the monthly payment on their house. And the two factors of that are price and interest rate. And so people now are used to a $400,000 house costing $3,000 a month. Guess what? If interest rates drop, that house is just going to go up to $500,000. The monthly payment's not going to change. And I think the longer you wait, the more you're going to lose, 100%.
Yeah. Did you find it difficult kind of being a landlord when you were young, or did you grow into it? Because I think the one thing that I think some people mismanage is that it's not easy being a landlord, and especially in a house hack when they know you're the owner or you're trying to hide it. Like, you have to deal with the tenants. They're right there.
Yeah, I never had that issue. I don't know. Maybe I just carried myself like I was older. I think that's a limiting belief. Like if you're young, and I know people who are 18, 19 that are landlords, like it's not an age thing. It's just like how you carry yourself. And are you a 19-year-old acting like a 19-year-old, or are you a 19-year-old acting like a 30-year-old? Right?
Yeah. Are you a homeowner? Yeah. Are you a homeowner who's also caretaking the space for the people that are paying you money to live there?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a good perspective to have on that. So how did it come about that you wrote the house hacking strategy book for BP?
Yeah. So I was working at Bigger Pockets at the time. And when I started working there, Scott Trench, he was the director of operations at the time, but now he's the CEO. He had written his book, Set for Life. It was just about to get published as I was starting. And I told him, I was like, I really want to write a book one day. That's like on my vision board. And he was like, okay, well, let me tell you what I did. I wrote for the Bigger Pockets blog for 2 to 3 years, weekly, on my own time, without ever getting paid for it or anything like that. People liked my writing. They interacted in the comments, and so did I. And then eventually a book opportunity came along and I took it. And so I said, okay, I guess I'll start writing for the blog.
I'll do that.
And so I started writing for the blog for it's literally the copy and paste for 2 or 3 years. They wanted someone to write the house hacking book. They did not pick me at first. They originally picked Brandon, and Brandon was too busy starting Open Door Capital and all that stuff. Like I think he moved beyond house hacking. And then they went to Scott for number 2, and they were like, oh, can you write the book on house hacking? And he said yes. And then he realized it was too much for him because he was just taking over at CEO of Bigger Pockets.
Right.
And I was number 3 on the list. And I was like, I'm not going to be prideful here. I don't care if they asked 2 people before me. If I got an opportunity to write a book for Bigger Pockets, I'm going to go do that. And so I did it. And some people know that story and others don't. But whatever, at the end of the day, like I still think it's a good book. And I put everything that I know about house hacking into that book.
Yeah, and I think that book and a lot of the BP books are so good because they really serve as guides. The numbers are going to change market to market, but to be able to read something when you're new and pair it then with the podcast, you really have the opportunity to learn, I think, so quickly compared to when I was young. I learned everything from my dad. There was no podcast. I never did like the books on tape back then. But now the opportunity's there. I just think people have to figure out like really what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Over time, do you think that house hacking strategy has changed, or do you feel like the dynamics are still the same in terms of like you're just trying to live for free or in positive cash flow on a multifamily?
I think I think it has changed for sure. I think if you go way back in the day, people bought duplexes and triplexes and had their own units and rented out the other ones. I think that kind of morphed perhaps when I came out with the book with more like buying a single family home and renting by the room because usually the
Mhm.
prices are cheaper, you can get more rent, and it's how you do it in a higher cost of living market. And recently it's been more like Airbnb. So 2021, 2022, Airbnb was off the charts. And now people are like basically buying homes just to Airbnb them. I think that's a fool's errand. I think those guys are going to lose their pants.
I
Personally,
agree.
I don't think that's real estate investing. I think you're
I
just trying to
think
be
they're
cute.
currently losing their pants right now because people overbought on the Airbnbs and there's just too many in a lot of the markets.
Oh, it's super saturated. You've got to pay maybe 100 grand just to furnish the dang place to make it stand
Yeah,
out. I know.
right.
I literally know a friend of mine who paid 90 grand to furnish their Airbnb, and I'm just like, what are you going to do with this stuff? I don't care if you're making $3,000 a month. It's going to take you 33 years to get that paid back, and it's assuming that nothing breaks. There's nothing better that comes
Right.
along, and it's of course you're just keeping up with the Joneses, right? It's like
Yeah,
just
well,
like
you
get
choose
back
one
to it.
bag tenant, you can ruin your $5,000 couch and then or your beautiful mural that you painted in to create the atmosphere. It's tough. I think. Do you find now over these years being at BP and doing all this work with investors, I feel like the trends are what people follow, but those of us are always just. I like to look at everything because I want to know what's going to work. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm trying to figure out what's out there. I feel like real estate is a little bit cyclical in the trends, and new people can get a little bit too into it, which is what's going on with Airbnb. Do you agree with that?
100%, dude. Yeah. I think the new people see the Instagram, right? It's what is
Yeah,
emotionally charging you. And it's like the before picture of a normal house and the after picture of, oh, wow, it's beautiful with like spiral chandeliers and like dogs on the whatever. And it's just who is going to buy a house with a spiral chandelier and dog wallpaper? Nobody's going to buy that. So what do you have to
yeah,
do? You have to tear it down. And guess what? When that drywall, when that wallpaper is torn down, it's not going to look all pretty painted wall.
definitely not.
You're going to have to scrape off that glue or whatever, and you're going to have to paint. It's going to be work to get it back to sellable. I don't know. I'm like a Debbie Downer when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like the Instagram culture has really forced so many people to think that they can flip a house, which is so much
Mhm.
harder than people think. And now we're talking about people trying to flip right now as brand new flippers with the prices as high as they're going to go, all of the costs of material and contracting high. Yeah, and then they think they're going to make a profit. This is a terrible time to be a flipper in most markets unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, like this is my piece of advice: is if everybody is saying to do one thing, you really should do the opposite.
Yeah, I agree.
Right now everyone is hell bent on. It's funny; it goes in trends. Like a couple of years ago, it was burring. Maybe last year was like the medium term rentals. Now it's
Yeah,
like the subject to thing, and every year feels like it's got a theme to
yeah,
me. And I think whatever that theme is, what I'm probably going to do the opposite of, because it's
yeah.
just not like the people that got there first are doing great and they're shouting it at the rooftops. But now it's saturated.
I couldn't agree more. And I've always felt that way about markets. Someone will say, hey, invest in Austin. I'm like, what? I'm like, people have been killing it there for 5 years. Like, even if I can make money, I can't make as much money unless I want to find the new Austin.
Mm-hmm.
You see the same
Mm-hmm.
dynamic there. Markets, you can still do well, like in a market like Columbus, which everybody likes. But like, I know people who've been crushing it there for years. So I feel like that's not enough. I don't want to make the third rung of money there.
Yeah. I think with markets too, it's just go. There's deals everywhere. Just go where you've
Yeah.
got a team and you're close, your backyard, whatever. Just make it happen wherever. Because like
Yeah.
each market is so different. Each market demands something different. And so what works in Columbus will not work in Denver. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and your competitive advantage is knowledge of the neighborhood. So you have to stick in your backyard or somewhere you went to college or somewhere you grew up. So you have a competitive advantage over the other people. If you just throw a dot on a map for some turnkey, you have no advantage. And the advantage that you have is trusting someone else, which is never a great idea with your first investment.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally.
So we both run investor friendly real estate teams. Let's talk about, I wanted to get your take on this because I've found that I have to really help guide new investors on like how to find an agent. And then also to tell them, hey, by the way, 99%, if not more, of real estate agents don't know anything about investing. One, do you agree with that? And two, how can we help new investors find the right agents?
It blows my mind that real estate agents don't invest. It just blows my mind. I'm trying to think of that's like a gym trainer not working out,
Yeah,
right? Would you
great
go to a
point.
gym trainer if he was like overweight? And probably not, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the gym trainer that's got the six pack and is pretty jacked,
Yeah.
right? And so why would you go to a real estate agent without any investment properties is beyond me. Unless you just want like your forever home, like that's
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But if you're looking for investment property, you're looking for a house hack, like you got to find people that have done it before because we've seen it. We've gone through it. Our team, we do over 100 transactions a year. There's nothing that we haven't, at least at this point, I don't think there's anything that our team has not seen that we don't know how to like deal with. And I'm sure same with yours, Jonathan. And so why not go with someone who's got all this experience, who's got all the tools, who's got all the resources, who's got all of the vendors and can just like hook you up and like they realize the value of your relationship. And so when you close, they're going to stay with you, stay in touch with you, stay helping you. So that way we can help you buy the next one. Whereas like a traditional real estate agent who's like a friend's cousin.
One and done.
One and done. They may not even be a real estate agent in a couple of years. And okay, cool. They have no point to stay in touch with you and to keep providing value for you.
Yeah. And for the real estate agents out there, there's no better client that you can have than an investor because they can do multiple deals. Just somebody who starts slow and then eventually does a flip. And then 4 flips a year is 8 extra deals as a real estate agent. You find the property, list the property, find it, list. And I think that people forget that the relationship between real estate agent and investor is so important. But have you found doing both, which I have as well, like investors, I don't think, even very savvy investors, they don't value the real estate agent as much as they should because a good investor friendly agent can change the world for you. They can find deals, they can negotiate deals, they know where to look under everything to find what's wrong. Do you agree with that? I really wish that even seasoned investors would not take us for granted in that aspect.
I don't want to, yes and no. I'll say yes in that I think people don't value real estate agents. I think we're very overpaid. And in some are, that's for sure.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I would say that like flippers and like real experienced investors are like my least favorite people to work with because they don't listen, right? They think they know it all. I can't be like, hey, like this is what we're seeing in this market. They're like, oh no, I've been invested for 20 years. It's like, all right, dope. Well, 20 years ago, this is not the same market. You might as well only be investing for 2 because the market's drastically different from pre-COVID to now. And so, but we've done like 100 plus deals since COVID. So who would you rather have on your team? Someone that's been investing for 20 years or someone that's done 100 deals in the last couple of years? And so honestly, like when flippers or like investors come to us and they don't know what they want or whatever, we just put them on a list and be like, hey, we'll send you our off-market stuff. We'll send you, we'll provide as much value as we can, but we're not going to pour into you or take much time. I'd much rather coach somebody through the process, like someone that's new.
I agree, because like you said, then you're going to nurture them and then you're going to teach them how to get into a second deal and then they're going to figure out how to refinance. I agree. I think people who think they know everything have lost it because, like you said, the market is changing all the time. Locality is changed based on what's working. And even your design choices on flips are changing. You have to be on top of what, a 65-year-old contractor doesn't know what millennials want in a flip. They're going to be doing the same thing. They look at one article, then they put gray everywhere, and that's already out. Like
so out. Yeah,
of course. But like you see right now, at least in my market, all of the cheap flips are still doing it because they're like 2 years behind the time. They just don't know. And then they put it on the market with a 1% listing agent and wonder why it's not selling. It's like,
totally.
It's crazy.
I think it's super comical too. Just like when people try to, when you get a listing or something like that and people are really trying to hammer you for some sort of discount and stuff like that. Just like, man, like we do work really hard. And it's almost like it's like, how would you feel if you worked really hard for like a W-2 company and they came to you after 2 or 3 years and said, would you take a pay cut? You've been working really hard for us, but we're cool now, right? We're friends. So you give me a discount, right? No. I just think that's funny.
I do find it funny that if you're going to go to a doctor and you need to get knee surgery, what are you going to do? Do you want the best or are you going to see who's going to do it for a discount? I really don't want to do a discount on my knee. So why would you take the biggest investment or like your latest flip which you just spent all this money on, and just give it to someone who's just going to put it on the MLS and do nothing.
Yeah, it blows my mind. It's like, yeah, man, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, and it was like they're fighting me over 0.5%. And I'm just like, you know what? I thought we had a good relationship. Like I provided her with tons of different value, like contractors and help and leases, like thousands and thousands of dollars I provided her of value over the course of the last 3 years. And now she might go with someone else because I'm not going to discount it. Just like,
yeah, I never do. And I pass. I like, even on off market, I know people think this is crazy, but like for off market, if I get a call, I say, am I the only person coming? They say, no, we have a bunch of people. Or if I show up and there's 4 wholesalers there, I just leave.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not in competition. Like, then I'm not going to get the deal that I want. So why am I there? It's bad use of my time.
Totally agree with that.
This week's episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing is brought to you by my investor-friendly real estate team, Streamline Properties on Market, brokered by eXp Realty. I have more than 30 agents on my team, and we are investor-friendly. We work traditional buyers and sellers, but we also focus on investors. So whatever your investor needs are in the state of New Jersey, parts of Pennsylvania, parts of New York, and a small part of Nevada, we have you covered, as our goal is to figure out first what your investment needs are, and then how we can help you reach them. Let's get back to the show. So let's talk about a couple things in the pre-questionnaire. This has come up a lot, so I wanted to talk to you because you're obviously in this space a lot. What's wrong with the real estate investing world right now? Gurus extorting people for money, trying to replicate strategies that aren't replicable. That's what you said, and I'm all in on this false guru thing, and it plays into what we were talking about on social media. Where are you seeing where new investors are falling prey to this? It's on social, right?
It's on social. Anyone who's paying for Facebook ads, right? If you gotta, and I don't want to have a blanket statement. It's not to say that these guys didn't make a fortune doing what they're doing. I'm not saying they lied at all. I just don't think it's replicable to that extent for everybody. Because now there's 1,000 people doing it. And so there is something when you're like the first to market to do something that you're going to see a lot of success. And again, that's great. Like I wasn't the first house hacker, I can tell you that. But I was in the earlier stages, and that's why it was successful. But now it's okay, like the longer you wait to join something, the less profitable you're going to be. So that's why, going back to our point, like the best time to invest is now. But yeah, I just think just be careful, right? If there's big mastermind groups all around one specific strategy, it's probably saturated, right? Like,
oh, dude, if you're going to teach 50 people all how to do the exact same thing, that doesn't really help anybody. Like, markets are different. It's not going to work in every market. You have to adjust things along the way. I agree. And I feel like when there's a resource out there like Bigger Pockets and local meetups where you don't have to pay anything, you at least want to go down that rabbit hole for a long time until you decide. I think the only time to really pay someone is when you already have a business that's going well and you want it to go even better, but you know what you're doing. Because if not, you're trying a lot of people just pay to try to get motivated, and they think it's going to do all the work for them. And it's never going to. They're, like you said, they're going to try to put in a system that they think is going to run for itself, but that's not how it works.
Yeah, no, go out there and fail a little bit first and figure out what system you need to build in order to actually make sense of it. But yeah, I think it's just be careful. If you're seeing everyone do one thing, just zig when everyone else is zagging. I think that's the good advice. It's like you said, like when you're starting, it's easy to pay money to so many different people, and they know that. They like people who have $250 to $300 courses. They know that you would pay that to make you feel like you're getting some good information, and you are probably. I'm not saying it's bad, but you might not even take action on it. And so go figure something out what you want to do, then go do it, and then I love that what you said, and then pay somebody to help you get there faster.
Yeah, because then you can also judge if the guru is taking you off your track. If you already know what you want to do, I don't love wholesaling at all, but there's people who run really good wholesaling businesses because they're running a business. But if you want to take it from doing 5 deals a month to 20, you're going to need help unless you've really worked it out. So there's the jump there. And it's the same for investors. If you want to go from small multifamily and you want to go to apartments, then maybe getting a mentor in the apartment space is going to help you, because different ball game when you go from residential to commercial. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So there's value in it. But like to what both of us are saying is like, you really should be careful in the beginning. And there's so much stuff available for free. You can just go in the forums and wade through who's pitching and who's just answering questions, which is what I did for 5 straight years on Bigger Pockets. I just answered questions and never had an ask. Day after day, I would just have it on my calendar to answer questions. And I made thousands of relationships like that and then started meetups off of that. Do you find that the in-person meetups are important for newer investors as well?
Oh, yeah. You have to surround yourself with people that are investing. Otherwise, it's a lot harder. I was actually listening to Brandon's podcast the other day, not Better Wealth, Better Life, whatever it is, Better Life. And he was interviewing Cody Sanchez. And she said that whatever your goal is, if it's to invest in real estate, you need to hang out with people that's normal for them, right? And so if you're the one person who's investing in real estate in your friend group, not good. If you are investing, if you're with people that everyone has got real estate, right? If you tell someone that you've got 20-something, 50-something units and they're not like, whoa, what? But then you're in the right circle because that's who you want to be around, right?
Yeah. I think the masterminds and meetups are great when you have people below you and people above. Of course, you always want to learn from the people above, but you also learn a lot by teaching new people. It's part of what both of us like by having a team helping to help new investors, because then we're working at our craft all the time, helping someone figure out like a new twist on the strategy. Like you've said multiple times, don't swim in the same direction as everybody else. There's a lot of different options out there.
Absolutely.
So you got a lot of advice early from when you met Brandon. So you met him when you got to Bigger Pockets?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So Bigger Pockets was still pretty new when you got there. What does it look like now to you to see how far it's grown from the website in the beginning was like a little janky?
Oh, man. Yeah. Honestly, I wasn't even like the OGs. Bigger Pockets started in 2004. So I started in 2017. And it really picked up when Brandon got there in 2012, 2013. But in 2017, when I first started, it was a bunch of millennials, right? Like I was 24 or something like that. And it was just like we were interested in real estate. We also had some other experience in like finance or whatever. But like everyone there had property. And then as my time at Bigger Pockets continued from 2017 through 2020, it became less about people who was investing in real estate and more about Bigger Pockets as a tech company in the real estate niche.
Yeah.
And so then we started hiring actually really good engineers and really good marketing people and really people who are actually good at their jobs and not just people that like real estate, but also knew what they were doing over here.
Right.
And so then they started taking off. They found out better ways to monetize, because I think they were under monetizing for years and years.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I think they're finally coming to a place where, I'm sure there's much more they could do. They're in a good spot now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of most important traits for real estate investors to have, you said persistence, tough skin, and courage. Explain courage to me, because I think it's part of what we were talking about before. Is that part of taking action? Like, stop sitting on the sidelines, at least do your best to get into it at some point.
Buying a deal is always scary. Like I have bought tens of deals. I'm not like in the hundreds yet, but like I personally have bought tens of deals, and I'm still nervous every time I go put an offer in. Like it doesn't go away. Ted Williams said in his book, he's the best hitter of all time in baseball history, right? He had a 406 average that one year. And he said every single time I get to the plate, he was still scared. He was still nervous. And so like it's normal for experts to also be nervous, even though maybe we don't show it on Instagram or social media. So that feeling of discomfort is normal. But what's different between Ted Williams and everybody else is he can lean into it. Like he's comfortable being uncomfortable. And so get used to that feeling of we don't know what's going to happen. But like worst case scenario, you might lose 10, 20 grand, but you'll learn, hopefully at least you took a big lesson out of that.
Yeah. And especially right now when so many of our offers are against multiple offers, like you have to be prepared to take a few on the chin, make some good offers. You can make a great offer right now and come in like fifth. I have my clients, they're like so upset. Oh, we came in fifth. I'm like, that means just 4 people, bid much higher. Did you want to bid any higher? No, we were good where we were. Great. Then it's a win for you because you didn't want to go higher and they probably went too high. In my market, people are doing like insane stuff. So you really have to be careful. We see multifamilies in my area there was one in Clifton, New Jersey that got 120 offers. Jeez. It was listed low at $499, which is really low for the area. But I think it was only like a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-family, 120 offers verified. How do you compete with that? You put out a good offer and you're like, I came in 72nd.
You just
like, how much can you wring your hands over losing that one?
Yeah, then you're overpaying, right?
Yeah. So, well,
Yeah.
how have you focused in your investing journey in terms of going from deal to deal? Are you still buying residential multis, or have you scaled up to commercial, more units, like 5 or more units?
Still, everything that I own is residential. I was a little hesitant on the multifamily stuff. Part of it maybe was because I was like a little nervous about it, but the other part of me, I felt like everybody was getting into it, and so I felt like it was just oversaturated, and especially the multifamily space where again interest rates were low. It seems like everybody was doing that, and I was like, if everyone's doing it, I probably shouldn't do it. And so I just kept having reservations against it. Just
Yeah.
yeah. So the short answer is no. I don't have anything else yet. Looking interested, and I wouldn't say no to multifamily. I don't think I'd be afraid to take down if a good deal came by. But yeah.
What about mixed use? Mixed use is one of my favorite hybrids because it's the only thing that you can actually house hack that's a commercial product if you have more than 50% residential. That's where I think a really sweet move is for people who are interested, because you can get a little bit of retail and a little bit residential. It's fun like that. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I've looked into some deals like that. They never penciled for me. And now we're not really I guess we're still house hacking. Like we rent out our basement, but like we're in our
Yeah.
forever home.
House. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in our house. It's no longer like a money play. It's a happiness play. And yeah, I'd be interested in mixed use. I like the unique buildings.
Yeah.
I also just like taking a strategy that like worked really well in one area and maybe applying it to a different area that hasn't seen it yet. In Denver, work by the room works really good. Or rent by the room works really good. And so now we're up in Coeur d'Alene area, like northern Idaho, and we're like, oh, there's people here that housing's not getting any cheaper, rent's not getting any cheaper. Like rent by the room seems to go in the right direction. So we might be looking at some things something to do like that here.
Yeah. Do you find that rent by the room is harder to manage than a traditional multi, or similar?
It's harder.
Sharing kitchens, and you have to deal with a little bit more complaints, I would think.
Yeah, it's harder, of course. I'm not going to deny that, but you're also going to get probably double the rent. So you're getting paid for a little bit more work. And it's also not as risky, right? Very rarely is nobody in the house. So you never really have a full vacancy. There's might be 4/5 of the house is occupied and 1/5 is gone. And so it softens that blow a little bit as well. And again, just the numbers work like way better. Like I know at least in Denver and Coeur d'Alene, the numbers are very similar, where it's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house might rent for, I don't know, $3,000, but it might rent for $800 a room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're talking an extra $1,000. I mean, it's not that much more work. It's just a little bit more work.
Yeah, yeah. Have you done college rentals? Because the room hack's definitely popular with college.
I haven't done it with college, funny enough, just because Denver's not really a huge college town, and neither is Coeur d'Alene. But I know a lot of people in college towns do that, and it works well. And I'm a little cautious with those, and mainly just because when you're doing college stuff, you've got to fill, and if you don't hit it in that 1 month, you're screwed for the whole year. If you're not filled by September. Yeah,
you're about 6 months in advance on that. So you're booking your leases for the next school year like 6 months prior. And then you can sometimes you're just going to do usually 9 months leases and then try to do summer school, try to hit the summer school. It can work really well. The thing that I found is you're protected. You get a cosigner. Even if you have 5 people, you're going to have 1 person sign, 4 under, 5 cosigners. You're pretty protected over it. And then the modern college student now is pretty responsible. They just don't know how things work. My friends who do college rentals will get calls and they'll say, the air's not working. And then they go to the house and they're like, yeah, you have to just turn it on. And they're like, oh, I didn't understand that. You have to parent them a little bit to be good at college rentals because they really like, the refrigerator's not working. They're like, but you unplugged it. Why would you unplug the refrigerator? I had to plug in my PlayStation. Okay.
Yeah. Priorities.
College problems.
Exactly. And that's it, right? College kids are in transition from having mom and dad take care of everything, and everything just like you turn the light on, you flip the switch, and it's on. But if you flip the switch and it's not on, it means something's broken. But how do you know what that is? And totally.
They will call to change the light bulbs. They don't understand that you have to do that yourself. But yeah. Awesome strategies. If someone was a brand new walking into the game right now and they wanted to house hack and they had enough for a down payment, what's the best advice you would give them about looking for properties? I know we talked about it a little bit at the start, but say they're a single person or a couple, they're out there looking. What should they look for?
It really depends on your market. There's not really like and what strategy you want to do. So first, you got to figure out what strategy you want, right? Do you want to be very profitable, right? If so, then you're thinking about rent by the room. You'll think about maybe even buying a little trailer, living in the trailer, renting out the house, right?
Yeah.
There's like ways to really like make a lot of money as a house hack. But if you want some comfort, then you're probably thinking, well, okay, maybe you buy a house where you've got a basement that you can separate and you can Airbnb the basement. You probably won't make maybe you'll just barely cover your mortgage payment, but you probably won't cover the whole thing. And so just figure out what strategy works for you and then find a market whose houses comply to those strategies. Like I know like in Florida and in Texas, they don't have basements. And so it's a lot harder to make those walk-off basement things work. But like maybe their houses are like big enough on the first floor where you can put a wall up and a door somewhere and you can easily separate like the east side from the west side or whatever it is. And on the markets that I invest in, there have to be basements. So that's what I'm look for and focus. But yeah, figure out what works in your market and find those types of houses.
Yeah, New Jersey has a lot of what I call 2+1s, which is illegal 2-family with a quote illegal basement unit. But as the owner, you can use the basement unit for your own as long as you don't put a stove in. And those are great because you're going to get full rents on a 2 and then you're just living in the basement. Like you said, you got to rough it a little if you really want to make good money in the beginning. Again, you can look for uneven, or it depends how many bedrooms you need or how many you really need. But yeah, there's still a way to do it. It's pretty hot now. Are your markets, are you still seeing like where you guys are helping with your team that it's still tough to find a multi right now?
There's just not a lot of multis in our markets is really the thing.
Yeah.
And we really like the single family homes with the mother-in-law suites.
Yeah, mother-in-law's great.
So we'll find one of those and we'll try to lock it up. And those can be competitive in our market. I've got a handful of those myself. And again, I feel like that's one of those strategies. Like I didn't hear about it. This is one of the things, like I did make a good amount of money on these properties in this particular area that allows for it. But I was the first one there that I knew of, right? There might have been someone. And then I made it popular. Like I'm the culprit here. And then it's harder to do because now like everyone sees these basements with kitchens and they're like, oh my gosh. But my first one, I was like, is anyone going to want to live down here? Is it going to be weird? Like all these questions were going to my head. I literally asked my inspector, like, do you think this is going to work? And he's like, oh, I'm like, thanks. But yes, you got to do. You got to try it. And if it works, go for it. If it doesn't, pivot.
Yeah. And one other perk to all of those mother-daughter houses, which I think are fantastic, is that there's so many future home buyers who are going to be practicing intergenerational living that you're having an asset that works differently. A lot of people are looking to live with their parents or their kids are going to come back home. So having a mother-daughter, which is basically a separate entrance to another part of the house, can be huge for your future value as well. Have you found that with yours? I don't know if you traded any of them out, but it's an attractive product on the market for buyers who have parents that are going to live with them.
I can't sell them. They just cash flow so good.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's hard. Every one of those cash flows me $2,000 a month into more. And it's hard like for me to sell those. But if I were to sell them, I know that I could get top dollar for sure. I don't know. And it's hard to even say what they're worth because appraisers will value them differently. But like anybody who's got that strategy knows what's up.
Yeah, that's a great point, though. I think those would appraise lower than what their true value really is, just because they're going to be good looking at comps instead of what you're doing on income.
Yep.
Different approaches on the residential versus how someone would evaluate via a cap rate, which is probably more appropriate for investors, even though it doesn't apply 5 and under. That's a really good point. And it's important for appraisal value to know because you're going to want someone to come in and buy those at the high end, depending on what they want to do. But knowing that keeps you in there. Like just take, those sound great. Like $2,000 a month is great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why it's hard. Look, I got locked them in on 3% interest rates or less. So that's the magic. But
just keep them.
Yeah.
Awesome. Craig, where's the best place for people to get in touch with you? The team is at thefiteam.com, right?
Yep. So thefiteam.com is our team. If you want to follow me, my journey, I'm the FI guy. So the FI guy on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I answer most of my messages and it's usually me. So yeah, feel free to reach out and we'd love to connect.
Yeah, I found it to be unique to the investor space. Almost every investor I know is answering the DMs because that's how a lot of us will get in touch for the first time. And sure, do you get a lot of messes in the DMs? Sure. But if there's a good question in my DMs, I always answer it. Same with you?
I answer almost all my questions as long as it's not like a spam bot or asking me if I have time. Do you have time for a question? Like,
I know. Is this a place to ask you a question? Come on. Why are we doing the dance?
I'm not going to dance with you. But if you ask me a question straight up, I'll answer it. And it kind of depends on how long it is. It might take me a couple of days. I don't know. But in short, I get back to 99% of people.
Yeah. Awesome. Will I see you out at BPCon in October?
I will. You will.
Because we're on the same panel, Craig. We're on the same panel.
Yeah. Amazing. On the investor-friendly agent panel?
Yeah, we're on one, I think, for looking for deals or something.
Am I on that? I don't know why I'm on that. I don't know if I'm truly on that panel or not.
Yeah, you're going to get bounced and they're going to give us somebody else. Yeah.
Potentially, because I never, they asked me to go on the investor-friendly and the house hack one, and then someone said, oh, you're on this one too? And I was like...
Oh, yeah. Craig's going to get replaced. I'll see you there either way.
You'll see me there either way, for sure. I'll be there.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for bringing the value to this podcast. It was good to meet you too.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for coming on. Or thanks for having me on. Yep.
Absolutely. That was episode 52 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with our guest, Craig Curelop. He thought he was doing his own podcast. All right, Craig, thanks. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with me, Jonathan Green. And I just want to remind you, and this is always an uncomfortable part, I don't want you to think that I'm begging for you to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do for the podcast, leave a 5-star review. But if you like the podcast and you think it adds value in the real estate investing sphere, then just do me a personal favor. Like the podcast, follow it, share it when you can with your friends, and be so kind as to write a 5-star review if you believe it deserves a 5-star review up against what else is out there. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you keep listening.